You're listening to the Telltale channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Last week, I was told by somebody that I was very yellow. So that was basically the result of my green screen behind me reflecting off of my screen and onto my face, and the lighting was terrible and everything else. So I fixed it. I got a couple of really high quality, expensive, nice studio lights. Hopefully this is better. We'll see. I can actually change the color and the brightness and the tone and everything from an app. So if I turn yellow again, it's fixable. Look, I'm turning my left side yellow. See? And now it's white again. Yellow, white, yellow. I can do it with both of them. So, and watch this. Whoa, that is very fucking bright. Okay, so, God, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just left it be, because now I gotta fix it again. But anyways, yeah. So that's pretty cool. It's going to adjust. I look like pale as snow right now. I'm not actually that pale in real life. It's just the lighting. So the camera will adjust itself in a couple of minutes, and hopefully that won't be a problem. Anyway, we got an interesting show today, to say the least. It's going to be a doozy. So I'll tell you what. Why don't I get into it by reading my transitions, and we'll go from there. In this podcast, we're going to talk about Kanye West going full avowed Nazi and praising some real messed up stuff. How did we get here, and what is going on right now? The absolute clown show Trump is inspired by denying Arizona governor election results. White nationalists and Kanye West's real political interests other than antisemitism. How Trump became a messiah. Wait, I'm missing something. Shoot, I'm missing, give me just a second to pull this up. I lost my description here. Sorry about this, guys. Hang on. Okay, there we go. Shoot, I'm missing my little description for my voicemails. Give me a second to find another one, so that I can read the description. I don't know what happened to it. Okay. We also take voicemails. If you want to leave a voicemail, the number is 1-800-701-8573. If you want to send an email instead, the email address is telltalemailbag@gmail.com. Although, FYI, I listen to voicemails a lot more frequently than the email now, because somebody signed me up for a bunch of BS services, and it has completely flooded my inbox with garbage, so it's really hard to sift through email right now. If you want to get a message to me, the best way is calling in and leaving a voicemail that is under 60 seconds long. You're just about guaranteed to have your message heard if you leave a message that's under 60 seconds long on my voicemail system. Okay, let me read my transitions one more time for editing purposes. Next, we're going to talk about Kanye West going full avowed Nazi and praising some real messed up stuff. How did we get here, and what is going on right now? Next, we're going to talk about the absolute clown show Trump is inspired by denying Arizona governor election results. Next, we're going to talk about white nationalists and Kanye West's real political interests other than antisemitism. Next, we're going to talk about how Trump became a messiah. Okay, sweet. We should be good to go. Last week, my system wasn't even recording for half of the podcast, so it turned into a huge mess really, really quickly. And it was really hard to recover, but I got it. It's going to be low quality, like 144p practically in some situations, but at least I got a copy of it. Anyways. Okay, let's take a look at Super Chats real quick, then we'll hit Kanye. Do you think Actually, you know what? Before I hit Super Chats, let's hit the first story, because this Kanye thing, I want to get it off my chest. Give me a second.
The most Nazi-like activities I've seen, and the Nazis, in my view, were thugs that shook people down, did a lot of really bad things.
But they did good things too. We're going to stop dissing the Nazis all the time.
That's Kanye West. Kanye West has gone full avowed Nazi. We're going to talk about what that means, exactly what he said, and listen to a few other clips that give us some clues about his personality, where it is right now, and what led him to this position in his life. But first, let's talk about the root of anti-Semitism, where this came from, why it's so pervasive. Why are people so obsessed with Jews? I actually talked about this on my Unfiltered YouTube channel the other day. So I'm going to insert a clip right here explaining this document called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. If you've heard this before, skip forward 6 minutes. If you've heard this before, skip forward 6 minutes. I'll also put a timestamp right here for where you can skip to. Okay, I'm actually going to play the clip real quick. Just parts of it so that it gives you guys an idea of what's going to be inserted here later. Listen to this. Back in World War II, Hitler used every opportunity he could to whip people into a blood frenzy, to make them absolutely hate the Jewish people. And one of the methods that he used to get people whipped into that blood frenzy was claiming that he found, or that people found, a document on a dead Jewish soldier, okay? And this document was called The Protocols for the Elders of Zion. Now, here's the claim. There were 27 supposed protocols of the Elders of Zion. These protocols of the Elders of Zion were short little things that were, I don't know, like they were like this long. They were like newspaper clippings, basically. And they were descriptions of parts of their plan for world domination. Now, I'm sure I don't even need to say it, but it was a forgery fabricated decades earlier. There was no Jewish soldier that this was found on. There were no elders of Zion, but Hitler mentioned it in Mein Kampf, and then he had these supposed 27 protocols of the elders of Zion printed out on printing presses and passed around to everybody. This is it, right here. If you've never seen this before, it's pretty crazy. The protocols of the elders of Zion were the 27 protocols, but it was compiled into a book called The Protocols of the Meetings of the Learned Elders of Zion in 1902. So these things originate from about 1902, and I believe that the book was compiled in 1905 originally by this one guy. As far as we can tell, we don't know exactly who forged this stuff, but it was passed around heavily by the precursor to the KGB called the Okhrana. It was the Tsarist Russian KGB, basically. It contains basically every conspiracy theory in existence. The conspiracy theory that Jews eat babies or that they drink the blood of children, that's from protocols of the elders of Zion. The idea that they control the big banks and the media and all of the other stuff, protocols of the elders of Zion. It's from this document right here. The conspiracy theory that they try to cancel people that they don't like, cancel culture, protocols of the elders of Zion. It's all from this. The idea that Marxism and Darwinism are evil and that they're trying to use it to destroy society, protocols of the elders of Zion. It's all from this. Every conspiracy theory in the past 100 years that you can think of. The Great Replacement, where they're trying to bring in other groups of immigrants to destroy our culture and to outweigh votes and things like that. Protocols of the Elders of Zion. The conspiracy theory that Jewish people are trying to enslave the world or whatever other thing, it's all from this book. Dead serious. This is where pretty much all anti-Semitism stems from. Or, well, I guess that's not exactly accurate. This is a compilation of all anti-Semitism from the past 1,000 years. It was all put into a book right here, and it was passed around Nazi Germany. And get this, it was passed around the Middle East by the KGB in the 20th century, passed around in Iran and Saudi Arabia and all of the other Middle Eastern countries in that area, Egypt and all of them, by the KGB to make the Middle East hate Israel even more. That's at least part of the reason why Iran absolutely hates Israel and why they're Holocaust deniers. Or not Iran necessarily, but the leadership in Iran. That's why they're like that. Because the KGB passed these conspiracy theories around over the past 100 years. So, anyways, like I said, there are 27 of these protocols of the Elders of Zion, and they were all compiled over the course of a couple of years from newspaper clippings and stuff. They originated from a book, a French satire book. All of the plans for world domination in this all were forged from this French satire book written in 1854 that didn't even mention Jews. But they found this book, they copied it word for word. 80% of the protocols for the Elders of Zion are forged from this 1854 French book. They forged it and printed it in newspaper clippings, and then in, I think, 1905, this guy compiled it all into this book, and then the KGB and the Okhrana and Hitler himself printed it out and passed it around to everybody they possibly could. Said it was being censored and the whole 9 yards. So this is actually originally from the FBI vaults. You can find it on the FBI website, along with letters from people saying that it was sent to them in the mail. The FBI tracked down 2 or 3 printing presses that were printing copies of it in the 1970s. Absolutely fascinating. Not that it's illegal to pass out, but, when propaganda like this spreads, they want to at least keep track of it. So really fascinating to look at the history of it. Point is, this is where all anti-Semitism originates nowadays. This is where all conspiracy theories originate nowadays. This is a compilation of all of the conspiracy theories, or many of them, that were said about the Jewish people over the past 1,000 years. And it's fascinating to get a glimpse into where all of it came from, or where it's all going. So anyways, if you're wondering, that is where anti-Semitism comes from in modern times. Thanks, past me. Appreciate that. So anyways, that's where anti-Semitism comes from. So anyways, now that we know where anti-Semitism comes from, let's talk a little bit about what that anti-Semitism led to in World War II. Most people go through classes, history classes talking about World War II and the things that happened. But a lot of stuff is left out of those classes because just hearing what took place, just hearing it, could cause PTSD for some people. You'll think it didn't affect you that deeply. You won't think much of it. You'll feel bad for the people who were victim to this stuff, but you'll kind of move on with your life. And before you know it, weeks turn into months, turn into years. You're feeling depressed and down. You jump at the sound of loud pops and things like that because it is so deeply evil what happened. Now, there's a book called Night. It was written by a guy named Elie Wiesel, I believe is his name. And I actually read that book today. He was the victim of the Holocaust. He was actually shuttled to Auschwitz, the actual concentration camp, Auschwitz, with his dad. And his mom and sister were taken away and killed, and that was the end of it. And he details his experience there. He was given the Nobel Peace Prize after, I think in 1986 or something like that, and he gave a speech in 1986 about, and you know what? Let me say that again. And he gave a speech in 1986. I just wanted to read like a couple sentences from his Nobel Peace Prize speech. Listen to what he said. Wait, where does it start? Hang on. I highlighted the wrong spot. Okay, here we go. A young Jewish boy discovered the kingdom of night. I remember his bewilderment. I remember his anguish. It all happened so fast. The ghetto, the deportation, the sealed cattle car, the fiery altar upon which the history of our people and the future of mankind were meant to be sacrificed. I remember, he asked his father, can this be true? This is the 20th century, not the Middle Ages. Who would allow such crimes to be committed? How could the world remain silent? And now the boy is turning to me. Tell me, he asks, what have you done with my future? What have you done with your life? And I tell him that I've tried to keep memory alive, that I've tried to fight those who would forget, because if we forget, we are guilty. We are accomplices. So let's not forget. Let's talk about what happened. Imagine, I'm about to tell you a real story of something that really happened. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's not one of those stories that could cause PTSD to people. Imagine you are hanging out with your family members. You live in Hungary, say, or Poland or something. You're hanging out one night, and the police knock on your door. You open the door, and they order your mom and your dad and your brother and your sister and you out into the street. They order you all to grab a rope. Nobody knows what's happening. So you all grab a rope. You find yourself accompanied by every other Jewish person in the town. You're all holding the rope, and they march you to the middle of a forest, 5 kilometers away. And they force you to dig a hole, a deep hole. After the hole is dug, you can see the soldiers drinking heavily and affixing bayonets to the end of their guns. Again, this is a real story. They tell everybody to line up along the hole, and they pull the triggers. Your mom and your dad are first. Your uncles, your best friend growing up, fall backwards into the hole. You're lined up next where they once stood. A soldier aims at your face, pulls the trigger, but at the last second pushes the gun out of the way and clips your leg. You fall in on top of your dead parents, your dead baby sister, your dead friend. You're still alive with a wounded leg. Another group lines up where you stood. They pull the triggers, and now your other friends fall dead on top of you. You crawl out of the hole after all the soldiers are drunk and have left, and try to crawl into a town that is less than welcoming because everybody thinks that you are an evil monster that practices black magic. You're an evil monster that put a curse on the town. Being Jewish. Thanks to the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was passed around your town earlier that year. That is a real story that really happened. Now, Elie Wiesel, the person I mentioned earlier, got the Nobel Prize. That didn't happen to him. He was, instead of being rounded up, walked into a forest and lined up along a hole where his friends and family were shot. They were taken to boxcars and driven into, or what's the word? And shipped into Auschwitz, a concentration camp. At that concentration camp, people lined up in front of Nazi doctors, Nazi administrators of various sorts. This guy specifically lined up in front of a famous Nazi doctor. Mengele, I think was his name. And they would pick left or right. If they picked left, you got to live and work in a camp, working on, a factory of some sort, producing goods or something for the war effort. If they picked right, it was to the crematorium. The people on the left had to work under the constant threat of the chimney that was constantly pushing out smoke of their dead loved ones. How did it get to that point? How did this happen? This is going to be a long episode. It's important to know. We're going to talk more about Kanye. I only got 12 seconds in, but I want to make a real clear point about what Kanye is endorsing right now. Give me a second. There's one clip that I want to pull up. Hang on. Another clip that I didn't intend to play, but I decided to anyways. It's Okay, I've played this clip before in full. There's a video on my main channel with the full breakdown of this entire 30-minute clip or 22-minute clip. I'm not going to play the full thing right now. I'm just going to play like the first 3 minutes of it or something. But I want you guys to understand how the Nazis got to where they are. Or I'm sorry. I want you guys to understand how the Nazis got to where they were. This was produced in, I believe, 1947, which is 2 years after the war ended. It's called Don't Be a Sucker.
Figuring out how to take that away from him.
I want to give you the truth, folks. The truth about America. I know you've got a lot of questions. You want to know why you're not getting the breaks you deserve. Well, I'm not a politician, but I've made it my business to study these things, and I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American, and some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign accents making all the money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
Is any of this sounding familiar? He's talking about immigrants taking jobs from people and, the lower forms or the lower forms of people in America that are sucking off of the system and making things worse for you. Your life sucks. And the reason is immigrants, Negroes, insert blank here. It's all somebody else's fault. Is this sounding familiar?
This fellow seems to know what he's talking about.
Yes, he knows all right.
What's the answer? What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church. Now, friends, these books are free. Paid for by real Americans who want others to know the truth.
Excuse me, young man, but are you actually going to read that stuff?
Sure, why not? You heard what he said, didn't you?
Yes, I heard. But do you believe in that kind of talk?
I don't know, makes pretty good sense to me.
I'm speaking to you as an American. And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these people.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fella's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
The point I mean, this all sounds super familiar, right? Again, this was produced in 1947, 2 years after World War II ended. Now, this guy in the hat here goes on to describe what it was like in Germany during Hitler's reign, 1932, right before Hitler took power. He goes into a flashback of what it was like to be in Germany at the time. Listen to this piece.
I saw it first in Berlin in 1932. 5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was a Catholic. Anton, a student of mine, was a Jew. Heinrich owned a small hardware store. Karl was a farmer. And Hans was an unemployed metal worker.
To all true Aryan Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you.
At this time in history, Hitler had basically no power. He was just like the party leader of a fringe party that wasn't even that popular. It was maybe 10, 15, maybe 20% support in the country. It was just a National Socialist Party. That's what Nazis stood for at the time, the National Socialist Party. As time went on, we came to find that they're not actually socialists. Matter of fact, the Nazi Party absolutely hated socialists and shipped them off to concentration camps just as readily as they did the Jews. But that's neither here nor there. Listen to this Nazi trying to convince a crowd to vote for or to support the Nazi Party.
To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman. Who is getting these things now? The Jew. The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright.
Now remember what I said earlier about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion? That was passed out by Hitler. It was printed and given to everybody on a street corner. It was mentioned directly in Mein Kampf. He spread it around to demonize the Jews, to make them into the enemy, to point a finger at them and blame them for all the problems. Similarly, well, hell, exactly the same way that Trump demonizes immigrants for all of America's problems, right?
Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs? The Jew! He must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated. And the Catholics. We don't want our great nation run by a foreign church. We Germans will know what to do with these people when the time comes. They and their faith must be destroyed. Then there are the Freemasons. In Germany, we have no place for secret societies. There will be only one society, and that is the Nazi Party. There will be no secrecy about that in the new greater Germany.
One by one, he attacked each minority and he split them off one from the other. These men were all fellow Germans when they came here today. Now they were split into rival groups, suspicious of each other, hating each other. They were being swindled, all of them. But the man who was really being fooled was Hans. He was pure German, according to Nazi standards. To him they promised everything, and he fell for it.
So that is... all right, let me rephrase. So that is a movie from 1947. Is any of this sounding familiar at all? Now, I don't know if Kanye knows the history behind the Nazi Party or the horrific, fucked up things that they did. I don't know if he knows the history of Hitler and the pure, unadulterated hate that he brought to the world. I don't know if he knows those things, but I don't really care, honestly. If you support or endorse a system that did the things that we just listened to, that walked people into a forest, lined them up with their friends and family, and pulled a trigger after making them dig their own graves, you are dead to me. I don't care. You are dead to me. You know, the sad part is the stuff that people experienced at that time, I mean, the things that the Jews experienced during that era were so horrific. Even the perpetrators, even the Nazi soldiers that were pulling the triggers, couldn't handle it. They believe in the cause to the death, do absolutely anything for Hitler, hated the Jews just as much as the next guy at the time in Germany. But strangely, over the months, they developed PTSD. They started getting stomach problems. They started freaking out. They stopped being able to handle the situation as easily, even the most die-hardiest of believers. Because human beings aren't supposed to experience the things that they went through, the things that the Jews went through. And human beings are not supposed to do the things that the Nazis did to the Jews. It really fucks your head up to experience things like that. I can't go any deeper than that without really messing with people's heads. So I'm just going to leave it there. And if you want to hear more about how all of this played out, then read the book Night by Elie Wiesel. A story of a guy that was actually there. Unlike the story I told earlier where they walked him into the forest, had him dig their own graves, and then pulled the triggers, Elie Wiesel lived in Hungary. The police came to his door and picked up his dad and his whole family, put them in boxcars, and drove them to Auschwitz. And he barely survived those camps. His dad did not. His mom and his sister were split off from them, and he never saw them again. They died too. Elie Wiesel is the only one that survived. That is what Kanye West is endorsing. And by the by, he does go by Ye now. I'm not going to use that name. I suspect he's trying to separate his current personality, his Nazi-supporting stuff, from his brand to try to diminish the impact that his beliefs may have on his brand, and I'm not going to give him that opportunity. Even if that's not what he's doing, I'm not going to afford him the respect of protecting his old brand. So I'm calling him Kanye. So anyway, with all of that background in mind, let's talk about the things that Kanye West had to say recently. Let me reset my camera. God, I just bumped my camera. That sucks. That means it's off center. Okay, that'll do. He went on Alex Jones's program. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. Alex Jones is bizarre in his own right, but apparently the things that Kanye said was too bizarre even for Alex Jones of all people. Check this one out.
You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone, and Jewish people are not going to tell me you can love, us, and you can love what we're doing to you with the contracts, and you can love what we're pushing with the pornography. But this guy that invented highways, invented the very microphone that I use as a musician, you can't say out loud that this person ever did anything good. And
Okay, first of all, Hitler did not invent highways. That was actually a program that was created by, I think, the Social Democrats, the other government that was in control of Germany before Hitler came along. That was a program started by them, and Hitler just picked it up and continued it. Yeah, that was good for Germany, but Hitler didn't come up with it. So, and as far as microphones go, did Hitler invent microphones? I didn't hear a word about this. I know for a fact that Hitler did not invent microphones or highways. Now, did his administration invent microphones? I don't know. I'm sure that somebody else would have come along and invented it if he hadn't. But okay. And the other thing Kanye mentioned there, you can't say anything good about him. Sure you can. You can say all kinds of good things about him. This is like This is like when somebody comes in, this is like when somebody robs their, this is like when somebody robs a bank, right? And they're on trial and they're standing in front of the judge and they're determining whether or not he's going to go to jail. And he's like, oh, you would bring that up where I robbed a bank. You didn't talk about when I brought my mom a birthday present, though. Why the fuck would we talk about you bringing your mom a birthday present? It's irrelevant in light of the fact that you just robbed a bank. I don't care what other good things Hitler had to say or do. I really don't care. You know what I care about? The fact that he killed a bunch of people, that he endorsed doing so. That's what I care about. We shouldn't be saying anything good about him. Okay, I guess he may have invented the microphone. Hypothetically speaking, let's say he did. Great. Okay, fine. He's a mass murderer. I could not possibly care less if he invented the microphone.
Never did anything good, and I'm done with that. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table.
Hitler did so many bad things. There is literally nothing that he could have done for humanity that would have outweighed the evil that he did. There is nothing. I don't care what good thing he may or may not have done. There's no point in even talking about it. Somebody else would have come along and done it. He did so much damage to the world that he doesn't deserve to be remembered fondly in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that Kanye is defending that and endorsing that and trying to get people to view him positively should tell you all you need to know about the guy. We should be completely done with Kanye. Completely done.
To the table, especially Hitler.
I'm sorry, let me step back because I wanted to get that last bit. Now, before we listen to the last section there, I want to preface this by saying he talks the entire time, the whole 3 hours, about how he hates Jews. And then interspersed in there every now and then, he says he loves everybody, including Hitler. So it's almost like he's trying to defend himself or get a jump on the argument by saying he doesn't hate anybody. There's no hate in his heart, even though he just spent the past 45 minutes talking about how much he hates Jews. But that whole argument that he lays down is blown to pieces with this next thing that he said. Listen to this.
Classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
Especially Hitler. I mean, it's like if he's trying to maintain the argument that he loves everybody, that there's no hate in his heart, you could at least leave the word especially out of that sentence. Kanye West is evil. Check this one out. Again, this all happened on December 1st, this interview with Alex Jones. Listen to this next one. Wait, which one was this? Hang on, let me see. This was, right, okay.
Seriously, I've really studied a lot of history, plus I had family that was there. And so, I mean, I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But I mean, just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say you like the uniforms? But
dude, Alex Jones is trying so hard to give Kanye West an out. He is doing everything he can. I'm sorry, man. Kanye is just a Nazi. He's a Nazi. I've heard a lot of names floating around for him. Bladoff, Blitler. There are a lot of different names for him. I'm fond of all of them, but bottom line is he's a Nazi.
You like the uniforms, but that's about it.
The uniforms are terrible, FYI.
But that's about
it. There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things. Hey, Netton, what did you think about that, Netton?
Yeah, he pulled this little net out and he's been kind of using it as a puppet for Netanyahu, which is the current leader of Israel. He really does not like Netanyahu or any of the others. I don't really like Netanyahu either. He's a far-right extremist who's hurt a lot of people, but including like many Palestinians. But that's a discussion for another day. The point is, he really doesn't like Netanyahu. I guess Netanyahu called out Donald Trump for eating dinner with Kanye or something like that. So this is his impression of Netanyahu while holding up the net, apparently.
This is insane. You are an insane person.
So anyway, yeah, that's Kanye. You can kind of see it leaking through a little bit here, if you will, but Kanye West is most definitely completely detached from reality at this point. Like, completely. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a second. Listen to this next one that he did on... listen to this next clip from Alex Jones's show.
I don't really care that much about Hitler. I love him. Seems like...
You just do it as a way to, like, troll?
No, it seems like a...
Yeah, again, he's trying to give him an out, okay? Alex Jones is doing everything he can to give Kanye West the out that he so desperately needs.
No, he seems like a cool guy. You know, it's like he you know... It's...
You hear this fake laugh from Alex Jones? It's like he's testing out this laugh to try to pretend that Kanye really is trolling. He's not trolling. How can it get any clearer? Kanye West loves Nazis, hates Jews, and wants to be like Hitler. Believe them when they tell you who they are.
Like he had a really cool outfit and stuff, and he was a really good architect.
No, he wasn't. He didn't do any of that shit. What is he even talking about? He had other people doing this stuff for him. Probably had somebody dressing him in the morning.
So you're in love with the look of it.
And
Another out he's trying to give him.
he didn't kill 6 million Jews. That's just like factually incorrect.
Guys, get the Ronald Reagan clip.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that he brought up. This is Holocaust denialism. Let me explain why he says that. He says it's factually incorrect. No, actually. There's some controversy that Holocaust deniers like to bring up about how many people died in the Holocaust, as if it matters. He most definitely, there was a period of time in the very beginning of, the 1930s, early 1930s, where the Nazis were standing on street corners screaming about, the Jews and how they were the source of all of their problems and all that other stuff. God, I hope I don't get, I hope they don't, take this down for, a hate speech strike or something right in the middle of the stream. That would suck. Anyway, in the early 1930s, there were Nazis standing on street corners talking about how the Jews were the source of all of their problems, right? Time passes and things start to get to a boil, and Hitler takes power, and finally there was a straw that broke the camel's back, basically. I don't remember what year it was. 1937 maybe? I don't know. Anyways, Hitler was terribly mistreating the Jews intentionally, shuttling them into ghettos and taking away their wealth and banning them from leaving the ghettos and stuff like that. Things got to a fever pitch, and a Jewish person attacked a diplomat of some sort, a German diplomat. I don't remember who it was. And Hitler used that as the catalyst, the premise for what came next, which is colloquially known as the Jew hunt. Hitler ordered all Jews to be attacked from that point. They were already cordoned off into ghettos, so it was a pretty simple. Task of sending police into those ghettos to do something about it, to take action and take them out. Not for nothing, but Nick Fuentes, Kanye West's friend that he brought on Alex Jones, has called for that exact thing for the black community. He has called for the military to go into black ghettos and open fire. That's a separate story, though. So in 1937, that's when the Jew hunt started, and Hitler came to realize that the Jew hunt was moving entirely too slowly. It was not moving as quickly as he wanted, so he came up with a new solution. he also recognized that not only was it moving too slowly for him, he recognized that it was really messing people's heads up, even his soldiers. You're not supposed to do that to a human being, especially not regularly. So instead of going on the Jew hunt, sending them into the ghettos and bringing them out and, lining them up in ditches and stuff, Hitler decided to find the people who seemed to be most capable of reliably and consistently taking people out without any ill effects, i.e., people who have some kind of sociopathy or psychopathy, who don't seem to have any form of empathy or feelings of any sort. He promoted them to, some high up position in concentration camps. He would build these gigantic buildings, these work camps, with crematoriums, as I talked about earlier, and the people that showed the least amount of emotional fallout from what they were doing were hired to work in these crematoriums to do it on a mass scale. So in 1937 is when the Jew hunt started, I believe. 1942 is when the official concentration camps opened. And from January 1942 to December 1942. So in January 1942, 25% of the Jews who would ultimately die in World War II were dead. In December 1942, 75% of the Jews that would ultimately die in World War II were dead. So the vast majority of the people who were going to be victims of this whole thing died in 1942. That's when the mass campaign started. This guy, Elie Wiesel, was brought into a concentration camp, I believe 1943 or 1944, Auschwitz, until his camp was liberated by Americans. An American tank rolled up and freed everybody eventually in 1945 after the war ended. It was one of the very last ones to be freed, the one that he was in at the time. He moved to different places. So anyways, yeah. What was I'm trying to remember what I was talking about now.
6 million Jews, that's just...
Right. Okay, so the point is, we didn't have electronic record. Okay, let me start that over. The point that I'm laboriously trying to get to here, I was responding to Kanye's thing, what he just said.
6 million Jews, that's just factually incorrect.
6 million Jews didn't really die. The Auschwitz Memorial had a plaque, still has a plaque, I think, that has changed the estimates for how many people died there over the years. Like originally, I think the estimate said 4 million, and then it changed to 2 million, then 980,000 or something like that. We didn't have computer records at the time. We didn't have any idea exactly how many people died there. We had to sift through records and look through those grave sites and to do math to figure out what their standard day was like and calculate all that stuff out and everything to get an idea of how many people died at these camps. Now that I feel like we've gotten a lot better at estimating, and we've gotten a lot more information about the time period over the years. So the Auschwitz Memorial plaque has changed as we got new information, more detailed information about how many people went through there and who died and all of that other stuff. That is the basis for their claims that 6 million Jews did not die in World War II. That is actually factually incorrect, what he said. 6 million Jews did die in World War II. We suspect. But guess what? Lots of times people were drunk when they were opening fire like that. The Nazis had to be drunk practically 24/7 to get through a task like that. And they had a set of volunteers that were doing a lot of the shooting too. Hiwis is what they called them. Again, Hiwis were drunk more often than not because it's a deeply disturbing, evil, wrong thing to have to go through, to do in the first place. Not for nothing, but 12 20% of German soldiers, of policemen, of the military refused to fire upon anybody, and they were reassigned to a different area, a different, workforce or a different task or whatever else. But that's still pretty high. 80% of people were willing to fire upon others. It's disturbing stuff. It's a disturbing time. I just really want to drill this home, what kind of an evil human being Kanye West is. I want everybody to fully understand exactly what's happening in front of us right now. This is unforgivable. Unforgivable.
Let's get the Ronald.
So the point is, Kanye West is not only a Holocaust denier, he thinks Hitler didn't go far enough, and he wanted to see more of it.
That's just like factually incorrect.
Guys, get the Ronald Reagan clip they showed me yesterday. Sorry, go ahead. Ronald Reagan said that too. Well, I think Hitler did target and kill some people. So I think,
I think Obama killed Palestinians.
No, I hear you. Here's where I think the frustration is. And Nick, you can comment.
I'm so blown away that Alex Jones is the voice of reason in this situation.
And Obama was not the first black president. He was another Jewish president.
Okay, that is a complicated thing I don't want to get into right now. But basically, Kanye West is a form of black Israelite, or holds some black Israelite views, which basically involve the claim that Kanye West or the black community in general are the real Jews, and the ones that are currently claiming to be Jews are imposters. It's a deeply anti-Semitic claim, of course. Black Israelites are anti-Semitic, and so is the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam is not Islam or Muslim. They're practically completely unrelated. It's a little cult that sprung from Christianity and Islam both. It's run by Louis Farrakhan currently. Malcolm X was a member of the Nation of Islam up until the last year that he was alive. Then he was assassinated after denouncing them. I don't think it was that, as far as I know. I mean, maybe it was, but I have no reason to believe that Nation of Islam was the group that killed Malcolm X. That's another totally different story, unrelated. Anyways, this is a black Israelite claim that Kanye is laying on us right now. I don't know who brought him to this point, but somebody in the Nation of Islam or the black Israelites has Kanye's ear. Do you think this is bad? The leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, has said the exact same things that Kanye is saying right now. He is a deeply evil human being, too.
Americans are tired of hearing that we're Hitler and that we did bad things when we defeated Hitler. And that's my biggest beef.
Let's not say his name anymore. Only say Christ's name moving forward.
I agree. I'm tired of hearing I'm a Nazi. Because I'm not. But I think by them falsely accusing people, some people are going to become Nazis.
I am. Now what? I am.
You're
now
what?
Kanye West claims the title of Nazi. This isn't, a left-winger nutcase saying everybody's Nazis or whatever. This is hearing the words coming out of this guy's mouth and acknowledging that he believes that he is a Nazi. He believes in Nazi ideology. How does it get clearer than this? Check this next clip out. Wait. Okay, so now he's moving off of just pure unadulterated anti-Semitism, and he's getting into some really weird religious beliefs. I mean, it's still anti-Semitism, but oh my God, listen to some of these weird beliefs that the dude's got here.
I'm not a person that's going to say, hey, I agree with everything. There's things that I said today that you guys don't agree with because you're not in the same place or in the same position in your walk that I'm at. I'm in a position where I love the person the doctor that had plastic surgery on my mom. I always have been in a way where I can't.
Okay, now here's the interesting thing. This is some deep lore for you. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Kanye West's mom, her name was Donda, okay? Now, if you know anything about Kanye West, he named his school, he has a school that he created, a private school. He named his school after his mom, Donda, and he also named one of his albums after her. Well, here's where it gets interesting. His mom actually died from plastic surgery and was the basis for a law being pushed through that I forget what it is. It's like it's the Donda West law or something like that. The law basically says you have to have a physical to determine if you are physically healthy enough to get plastic surgery before having the surgery. She basically died under the knife because she wasn't physically healthy enough to go under anesthesia or something like that. And that could have been prevented if they had just done a basic physical on her before, giving her the plastic surgery. So anyways, apparently Kanye West believes that his mom was sacrificed or something. Keep listening to this.
I am.
You said your mother was sacrificed. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I believe that Michael Jordan's dad was sacrificed.
Sacrificed by who, I hear you asking? The Jews. He believes that his mom was sacrificed by the Jews to Satan. He thinks they worship Satan. No fucking joke.
I believe, didn't something happen with Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
My mom, these are all Zionist sacrifices that happen, but this is Satan at the end of the day. There's a lot of people that feel like we're at the end of days.
Okay, he threw in a word there that's not super common, Zionist. If you don't know what that means, it's basically just a code word for like a pro-Jewish person, like somebody who believes that Israel should excel. And there's a lot of baggage to it, a lot of like loaded language surrounding the term Zionist that I don't even need to get into, but that's basically what it means. Zion is Israel. If you're a Zionist, then you're pro-Israel. That's basically what it means. Kanye is basically saying that being a Zionist means that you're a Satan worshiper or something. But this is where his mental illness really starts to shine through right here. Wow, I've been going for an hour almost. It's important, though. I feel like this is a really important story I need to finish, and I want to give it justice. I don't want to cut it short due to time constraints. I really want to complete this whole thing, this whole thought. So we're going to keep going, despite the fact that this is really long. This is where Kanye West's mental illness starts to kind of shine through, and his sensitivity about it. Listen to this one.
Hour number 2, uncensored with Ye.
It's basically Alex Jones ending the segment. They're going to a commercial break, and he's doing his little outro here.
Ye. Nick Fuentes, I'm your guest host here in Insane Asylum World, because the whole world's crazy. All of us are nuts. This is Twilight Zone 2.0. We will be right back. Don't point at
me when you say that.
No, I'm talking about all of us. The whole world's crazy. It is crazy. Everybody's crazy. I believe that. I'm saying the guest host here because these guys are hosting. We'll be right back with hour number 2.
Did you hear what Kanye there said? He said, "Don't point to me when you say that."
I'm your guest host here in Insane Asylum World, because the whole world's crazy. All of us are nuts. This is Twilight Zone 2.0. We will be right back.
Don't point at me when you say that.
Don't you point at me when you say that. He is very sensitive about his mental health. Here's where it gets interesting. Okay, now you can very clearly see a what's the term I'm looking for here? A slow progression into complete madness. And it's something he's very obviously sensitive about. Check this one out. This is just a few minutes later.
I look at my phone and they say Ye's an anti-Semitic. So I said, okay, well, I'm an anti-Semitic. No, you said I'm an anti-Semitic. Get it? You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, what he's saying is he was accused of saying something that's anti-Semitic, so he decided to lean into it and get really anti-Semitic because he was called anti-Semitic. I feel like his logic is completely off the rails here. People called him anti-Semitic because he did something anti-Semitic. If he doesn't want to be accused of being anti-Semitic, then he shouldn't act like that. Is he really not getting this? Like he's saying, do you get it? Do you get it, Kanye? How are you this dense? Wait. This thing just froze on me. All right, hang on. 413. Why is this thing dying on me? My computer. Give me just a second to pull this back up. Okay, there we go. For some reason, my keyboard was not operating properly. All right, 413, 413, 413. 413. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, before I continue, let me reset my camera. Yep, been about an hour now, but it's good. I'm glad that we're getting through this. It's important.
You understand what I'm saying? Bring in the clowns. There will be clowns.
I tell you what, let's play that.
Did this dude just start singing to himself out of nowhere? Would you be surprised to find that that's not the first or the last time he sang to himself during this episode?
To have some comments, final comments here. Are you going to push that jet back, or you got to get out of here?
I got to get out of here. They already pushed the jet back, tried to stop us from getting here in the first time. Nick, can you tell them what
They already pushed the jet back, tried to stop us from getting here.
happened?
For folks that don't know, tell them about that.
Okay, yeah, this is a totally separate story. I meant to include that. I guess I didn't apparently, but basically his jet had like a depressurizing situation, like an alarm started going off because one of the seals on the door was not working for one reason or another. So they had to like turn the jet around and land at like a landing pad nearby or whatever, a landing strip, so that it didn't depressurize. And Kanye believes that the Jews planned that, orchestrated that to prevent him from talking about them on Alex Jones. This is delusion. This is not... You don't usually face delusion, full-blown paranoid delusion on with bipolar disorder, which Kanye's been diagnosed with. It's not one of the standard things. You can experience a delusion of grandeur, which means you believe yourself to be incredible, the best, the biggest, the strongest, the whatever. That's a delusion of grandeur, but it's not usually paranoid delusions. Now, I happen to... I'm not going to say who it is, but I know somebody that I'm very close to and have been my whole life who has something called schizoaffective disorder. Schizoaffective disorder is basically schizophrenia mixed with bipolar disorder. They're on the same spectrum, those two conditions are, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. I don't know this for sure. I have no place to diagnose Kanye. I don't even know the dude, and I'm not even a psychologist, so this is just complete shot in the dark guess. But it feels like Kanye West might have schizoaffective disorder, a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Now, it's not just a combination of the two. They intertwine with each other. So with schizophrenia, pure schizophrenia, you have these delusions that pop up. Like you believe that you could invent nanotech that could repair your body and keep you alive forever, creating immortality. Or you believe that you could write a cipher that could compress things to like 1,000th of their original size. Or you could interpret a language that nobody has ever been able to interpret before. Those types of delusions, right? That's what you get with schizophrenia. But with schizoaffective disorder, this only pops up when you have your emotional high. So bipolar disorder, you jump between mania and depression in cycles. Cycles are different lengths for different people, but the people that I've known that have had bipolar disorder had, say, 6-week cycles. Some people's cycles are as short as 2 or 3 days. They're manic for 3 days straight. Can't sleep. It's like they're on coke. Running around doing spending sprees. They feel like they're invincible. And then they crash. They're super depressed. They can't handle it anymore. They stay in a dark room for days at a time. They don't eat. They don't do anything. That's the manic depressive stage. Like, they jump from one extreme to the other. With schizoaffective disorder, when they're manic, they start having these delusions, like schizophrenic delusions. When they're depressed, I don't know if there's any difference when they're depressed. But anyways, They'll just cut that section out. It's irrelevant about depression. So anyways, my point is, some of the things Kanye is talking about sound like schizophrenic delusions. But it's not. It's like paranoid delusions, like they're coming after him. They're trying to get him. They're attacking him or whatever. Here's another interesting side effect of schizophrenia, a little-known side effect. You can't always tell left from right. Commonly, if you have schizophrenia, you can't figure out what is left or right. You don't know if you're holding something with your left hand or your right hand. You don't know which hand this is. I wish we could do some kind of a test where we ask Kanye what's in his left hand, just to see. I mean, that wouldn't be a die-hard indication that he has any of this stuff anyways. It would just be an interesting test. If we could get close to him and ask him what's he holding in his left hand, what's he holding in his right hand, just to see, you know? That would be really fascinating. Anyways, the point is the guy is very clearly mentally ill. Clear as day. I'm sorry, this is not an offensive thing. I don't intend for this to be offensive to him. He's obviously very sensitive about it. He's mentally ill. He needs medicine desperately. I don't know what kind of medicine. Lithium would help with bipolar disorder. That would not necessarily help with schizophrenia. He might need to try Seroquel or Geodon or something like that. I don't know. That, some antipsychotic that cuts down on the delusions. Because this is too much. This is bad. Check this next one out. This is where his mental illness really starts to become clear.
It doesn't matter how on the spectrum you think I am. I have the right to speak out loud. That is our First Amendment. And
You absolutely do. You're right. It's interesting that he said he believes that he's on the spectrum. I assume he means the autism spectrum, because that's usually what people are referring to when they say the spectrum, first of all. Second, you do have a right to speak. Absolutely. And I have a right to condemn you as an evil monster for endorsing Hitler. That's my First Amendment right, to say that you're disgusting and I don't want to buy your albums or listen to your music anymore because it's grotesque, the things that you've said and endorsed. We're both using our First Amendment rights. That's what it's all about, baby. Keep acting like the victim as you literally call for the deaths of people. Keep playing the victim card. He's learned well from Republicans, right?
And it's a shame.
Oh, before we continue, since I mentioned Republicans, something else that I was reading about recently when I was dealing with a lot of the reading the Nazi books that I've been reading, something I read about recently, something called the F scale. It's a personality test that was developed by somebody, I forget who, but Theodore Adorno. It was produced in 1947 to measure the authoritarian personality. The personality that kind of produced Hitler, or that would determine if you were likely to be a Hitler supporter in Nazi Germany. Listen to some of the qualifiers or some of the qualities that you would expect to see in somebody who followed Hitler in 1942. Conventionalism. Conformity to the traditional societal norms and values of the middle class. Authoritarian submission, a passive notion toward adhering to conventional norms and values. Authoritarian aggression, punishing and condemning individuals who don't adhere to conventional values. Any of this sounding familiar? Putting a high emphasis on religion and ethics. Being very superstitious. Appreciating the optics of power and toughness. Anti-introception, i.e., rejection of all inwardness, of the subjective, the imaginative, the tender-minded, and of self-criticism. Destructiveness and cynicism, generalized hostility, vilification of the human. Projectivity, the disposition to believe the wild and dangerous things go on in the world. The disposition to believe that wild and dangerous things go on in the world. The projection outwards of unconscious emotional impulses, and exaggerated concern with sexual goings-on. Is any of this sounding familiar? This is describing the Republican Party to a T, or the MAGA movement more specifically to a T. Dead serious. So let's keep listening to Kanye. This is very obviously, he would very obviously score very, very high on the F scale, but that's neither here nor there. Keep listening to what he has to say here.
Amendment. And it's a shame that you have to be considered to be on the spectrum to have enough courage to speak out loud.
So I guess this is him kind of coming out and saying that his doctor said that he's on the spectrum. I don't know. I assume he's talking about the autism spectrum, right? Because like I said, bipolar and schizophrenia are a spectrum too. Is that the spectrum he's referring to? I don't know.
I do love my family, right? But I looked at every possible outcome. I've practiced Chinese water torture on myself.
Why, I hear you asking? Your guess is as good as mine. You got me. Why practice such a thing on yourself? To what ends? Who knows? Only Kanye knows.
Possible outcome. I've practiced Chinese water torture on myself. I would like skip along Malibu in front of my house and sing, "When the Clintons come to kill me, how is it going to be? What are they going to do to kill me?" Wait a second. Netton, what do you have to say about this? Netton, don't want to say nothing.
What I'm trying to get at here is, yay.
I don't even know what to say to all that, honestly. I really don't. The guy has mental problems. And if he were a woman in this industry, in the music industry, he would have been in a conservatorship 10 years ago. I desperately wanted Britney Spears out of her conservatorship. I didn't feel it was right for her to be in one, and it wasn't right. Kanye needs one. Desperately. It isn't even about his beliefs. It's about shit like that. He is completely gone. Off the rails. A train wreck. If that's not crazy for you, if that's not crazy enough for you, at the end or near the end of, the whole thing, he gave us his presidential platform, told us he's running for president in 2024, and wanted us to know what he believes would fix the problems the country faces.
I am not the most knowledgeable Christian, and I'm not the most knowledgeable politician, but I am truthful. I'm nobody's hard.
No, I believe that. What I was trying to get to is, what is your platform? And you text me your platform. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, it starts here with the Bible, and we're going to work through this with our designers. We're going to approach America like Steve Jobs approached Apple.
Oh, yeah. By the way, first of all, this makes absolutely no sense at all. But since he said designer, I do just want to point one thing out. Kanye West is well known for, if nothing else, I mean, aside from his music, he's well known for his work in designing, right? He designs various product lines like shoes. That's why he had a deal with Adidas. And lingerie and clothing, jackets, and all kinds of other stuff. But knock this around the old cashew. Think about this one. Did you ever consider the fact that maybe Kanye is piss poor at designing things? The stuff that he designs look as disjointed, confusing, and ugly as his personality does. But he's so revered in the music industry that people just think that it looks really good. Have you ever seen a pair of Yeezys before? This is a pair of, wait. Here's a pair, God, hang on, let me find, damn it, Yeezy slides. Wait, this isn't the slides I was thinking of. What are these? Foam runners. Yeezy foam runner. Let me look that one up. Here's a pair of Yeezy foam runners from Adidas. This is what they were producing. It's basically a Croc with extra holes in it that looks like it was thrown. It looks like a mix of a Croc and a Nerf football. Did anybody consider the possibility that maybe this guy is not good at designing anything at all, and people just like his designs because they liked his music, and that's about as far as it goes? He's not a good designer. He's not good at creating new fashion. Does his fashion catch on? Oh yeah, definitely. Because he's famous already and people want to be like him. He's not a good designer. His stuff looks like shit. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Keep listening to what he has to say here.
We are the youngest startup in history, but we're the world power because of our military and mainly because of our naval force. And it shows how smart and how powerful Americans are. The engineering, the sheer engineering. We invented Apple.
He's trying to give us his presidential platform. I'm not seeing it here.
We have the strongest military, and now we have to take that same type of sensibility, take it out of Wall Street's hands and give it to the people.
Okay, how are you going to do that? What the hell does this even mean exactly? Take the engineering sensibilities out of the hands of Wall Street and give it to the people. What? What are you talking about? Okay, that's a nice idea. Can you give me a specific plan that you want to put into practice that would do that? Maybe I can skim through the plan and figure out what the Maybe I can skim through the plan and figure out what the fuck he's talking about. I have no idea what he is on about right now.
Engineering mind that created the trams, that made Disney, that made Pixar, that made Lucasfilms, that made Apple. That engineering mind, these minds that we have are going to be brought together to cure America, and then we will influence the rest of the world into higher consciousness and into peace.
And I agree. We were given that birthright, and somehow it's been lost. I want to talk about that.
Dude, I am so lost. I am so incredibly lost about everything. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know how he arrived at these conclusions. I don't even know how he plans to implement any of this. It makes zero sense. Zero. I am so beyond confused by, like, literally everything he said. Just about the only thing that he said coherently in this entire 3-hour interview was, I love Hitler and I'm a Nazi. That's about it. In between all of his bizarre ramblings about the Clintons coming to kill him.
Be considered to be on the spectrum to have enough.
Where was that? That was right here, I think.
Let's get Owen Schroyer and Ollie to have some comments, final comments here.
No, it was right. Was it here?
You
Where the hell was it?
the right to speak out loud. That is our first.
Wait, where was it? It was sings to himself, so it was 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it was this video. I just want to exit with that singing piece. 1, 2, 3. So this should be the one.
I gotta get.
Oh, no, wait. It was the second one. So it should be right here.
I do love my family, right? But I looked at everything.
Yeah, this is it.
When the Clintons.
Yeah, this is it. This is it right here.
I would like skip along Malibu in front of my house and sing, when the Clintons come to kill me, how is it going to be? What are they going to do to kill me? Wait a second. Netton, what do you have to say about this?
Just because he has mental problems, clear as day, does not excuse all the other stuff that he said. He is an evil monster and deserves to have his legacy destroyed permanently for the things that he's said and done. If he is unaware of what Hitler actually did, I honestly don't care. He deserves it either way. He deserves to have his legacy destroyed permanently for being stupid enough to endorse something so horrific without actually knowing what happened and how things played out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Does Yeezy here, Kanye West, deserve to have his legacy destroyed for the things that he said? The answer is yes, but I'm willing to hear your side of it. So let me know in the comments. All right, let me take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of my stories. We'll see which story. I'm not sure yet. All right, give me 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Telltale Channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I know that was a long segment. I may cut one of these segments out. Actually, I'm not sure. We'll see. I could do the absolute clown show that Trump's inspired by denying the Arizona governor election results, or I could do Kanye West's real political positions, or how Trump became a messiah. I want to do two of those three. I'm thinking I think I may drop the white nationalist one because I took up so much time with the other one. So that's fine. Okay. Yours truly, number one pony. Do you think JWs know they'll lose everything if they think about questioning Jehovah's organization? I don't call it Jehovah's organization. I call it the governing body's organization. Absolutely. Yeah, they're fully aware that they will lose everything. It's a looming threat over everybody's head, and they're fully aware that it's there. Now, I think a lot of people, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses agree with that because they still believe in the system and think that it's justified that Jehovah's Witnesses take everything away from them or whatever. But a small subset of them are very unhappy with the fact that shunning is still a policy within the religion. I would say 20% of Jehovah's Witnesses, just a rough guess, don't agree with shunning, but follow it anyways. It could be as high as 30%. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know without running actual polls and stuff like that. And actually seeing somebody placed in the position of having to shun a friend or a family member is different than asking them, do they support the position of shunning by the Jehovah's Witness religion? Seeing how they act in those situations is very different from asking the question outright. So it's hard to know which ones support it and which don't for sure, but my guess is about 20-30% don't agree with shunning. Anyway, thanks for the super chat. Deftones are flat earthers? I don't think Deftones is, but I think the singer is, or the guitarist, or one of them. One of the members is a flat earther. But Deftones in general is cool. Big fan. Zolfner, welcome. Lose the stash, love, and shirt. Okay. You don't like it? Yeah, I was thinking about, I don't know. Maybe I'll shave. We'll see. Michael Cheng, attending my graduation ceremony right now. Going to be way less active in chat than my usual inactive self. Okay, well, thanks for coming, and thank you for being a member for 3 months. That's awesome. Trey Koyawena, hey, just got started trying to cancel Xmas by getting our Xmas tree. As if we don't already know, West was not all there, but Trump realized that there's someone as crazy as him. Happy holidays, absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat. Happy holidays, happy Xmas, and yeah, Kanye is just a train wreck. Oh, there was something else I wanted to play too. Hold on. There's another thing that I wanted to play. Give me a second to find it. Hang on. Okay.
And perhaps irreversibly.
Hold on. Yep, okay. I'm going to insert this at the end of the previous one, but you know, this whole mental illness thing, this isn't new for Kanye. He's always been like this. We just didn't see it before, apparently. If you remember, he famously said back in, I don't know, 2006 or something like that, George Bush doesn't care about black people. He said that famously on TV. Now, that line on its own doesn't seem that, like, crazy or that, out there or bizarre or whatever. But I'd be willing to bet, because I hadn't seen this before, I'd be willing to bet you haven't seen this before either. This is the actual line. It wasn't the thing that he said. It was the way that he said it. It was a charity event raising funds for Hurricane Katrina victims. And he was on there with Mike Myers, Kanye West was, and Chris Tucker is about to pop up in a second. Listen to Kanye West and Mike Myers talk about, George Bush and Hurricane Katrina and all that stuff on this fundraiser. And actually, let me up the playback speed.
The shape of the city has changed dramatically, tragically, and perhaps irreversibly. There's now over 25 feet of water where there was once city streets and thriving neighborhoods.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And it's been 5 days because most of the people...
Okay, so the things that he's saying are roughly correct, but it's so disjointed and confusing and just a complete train wreck, right? What does this have to do with anything? They're supposed to be raising charity funds for Hurricane Katrina victims, right? I'm so lost about what he's saying here.
Our black, and even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well-off as slow as possible. I mean, Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
Okay, so this is in no way nervousness. I mean, maybe there's some nervousness mixed in here, but this is how the guy's head works. This is what's going on in there. This is not about Kanye West being nervous on TV. It's about mental illness. It's been there since day one. How did we not see it? So Mike Myers is just kind of confused by that disjointed array of thoughts that don't go together. But listen to what happens next.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Okay, that was just out of nowhere. It was just like, that makes no sense at all. I think he's right in some of the things that he said, the things that I can decipher. But what?
The lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
And now, as he says this, watch Mike Myers' face.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call.
In the past few days.
And then there's Chris Tucker, just has no idea. Oh, God, I just love it. I love it to death. Anyways, Kanye's always been like this. How did we not see it before? I just don't know. Let me know what you think. Okay, cool. Sorry, that segment was like an hour and a half long. I'm going to have to cut that down to, like, practically nothing. All right, where was I? The fact that the Nazis only had about 20% support and they still managed to do as much damage as they did is terrifying. Absolutely. You know what's even more terrifying? At no point in time did the Nazi Party ever have more than 37% support at any point, from my understanding. That's what I read in the book Ordinary Men by Christopher R. Browning earlier today and yesterday. That's just crazy, dude. Tell Kanye about Jesse Owens. Oh, yeah, I know a little bit about Jesse Owens. I don't remember a whole lot. What happened to him? He moved to Germany during World War II or something, didn't he? I'll have to look into it to understand the context a little bit more. But yeah, I know there was something to do with Jesse Owens and the Nazi Party. I just don't remember clearly. Anyway, thanks for the super chat. Arnold Schwarzenegger gave such a moving speech about what happened to the Nazi soldiers after the war ended. It made me cry. I know. I think I've heard that speech before. It's been a while. Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually awesome. I fucking love that guy. Despite the fact that he's a Republican, he doesn't seem to be a complete nutcase, so that's a plus. Thanks for the super chat, Stephanie. Nerical, yeah, Kanye's lost it. Have a donation to our feline overlord for treats. Hail Bast, pass the catnip, and keep up the great work. I want to appreciate that. Thank you so much, Nerical. That's awesome. Absolutely. Emily Sigmund, the SS uniforms were designed by a French top-tier designer as a way to endear themselves to the public. Hitler had next to nothing to do with it, but that's what Kanye may be referring to. Well, I think Alex Jones was referring to Hugo Boss uniforms or whatever. I looked in. I think Hugo Boss is like a German design company. I don't even know exactly, but that's really interesting. Yeah, Kanye talked about Hitler's like role in inventing the concept of the highway and inventing the concept of the microphone. Apparently those two concepts didn't exist before Hitler. He's gone. He's gone. You can't blame mental illness on this either, honestly. This is Kanye's fault. He's just a piece of shit. I don't insult people almost ever. I'm making an exception for Kanye. I do love how extremists blame their extremism on other people for calling them out for said extremism, trying to have their cake and eat it too. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it's like, God, what's it called? This is a time-tested tactic by bullies, extremists, fascists, authoritarians throughout time. When you violate somebody else's rights, claim that they're violating yours. He hurt my fist with his face. Claim to be the victim. Claim persecution when you are the one doing the persecuting. That's how it's been since forever. And that's what Kanye does. It's sad, honestly. Chandler Slesiak, I've noticed that people as sick as Kanye have higher chances of believing in insane conspiracy theories. He clearly needs to get treated ASAP. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to let him get out of this by claiming mental illness. So he definitely has mental illness. I don't, my brother has a lot of mental conditions, a lot. And he's not a Nazi. My mom has mental conditions. She's not a Nazi. It's like Roseanne Barr claiming that she was Ambien tweeting, and that's why she let out a racist tweet. The side effects to Ambien are not racism. You're just racist. So, anyway. Samantha Galantine, I work mental health as a BABHCMII, I think. Schizoaffective disorder can either be bipolar type or depressive type. I see a lot of schizoaffective, and it's hard to work with. Keep up the amazing work. I appreciate that. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. I'm very close with somebody who has schizoaffective disorder. I don't talk to them anymore. I just don't want to, I don't want to say who it was, but yeah, I've been around that illness my whole life, unfortunately. Emily Sigmund, I think Kanye also has full-blown personality disorder on top of it all. That would complete the picture, right? It's a shame. The dude is a train wreck. It's honestly sad, but he needs help desperately. He needs to do something about this. Like I said, his beliefs about Nazis and Hitler are not unique. Louis Farrakhan believes all the same stuff, the leader of the Nation of Islam, which, by the by, the headquarters for the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan's church, is like 2 blocks away from me or something. Like, it's right there. It's not 2 blocks, but, New York City, Manhattan, it's right, this is kind of the beginnings of it. Disturbing stuff, man, I'm telling you. I think I'm really close to where Malcolm X died. Malcolm X believed a lot of the same stuff, too. I don't know why anybody, like, supports the guy. He's terrible. In almost every way. He was awful. It's like, you know, Nation of Islam and Black Hebrew Israelites, those two groups, they're as predatory to the black community as Scientology is to everybody else. It's like black Scientology. Oh, yeah, he did die in Harlem, New York. 1965. He was... Holy shit, dude. Dude, did the Nation of Islam assassinate Malcolm X? Audubon Theater and Ballroom. Let me just see where that is exactly, especially in relation to where I am right now. Let's take a look here. Audubon Theater and Ballroom. Oh, no, it's not close to me. That's all the way up in, like, Washington Heights, in Manhattan. That's pretty far. Never mind. Unrelated. Okay, let's get back to it. Ye has said a lot of horrid crap, but his mental illness is the main reason I can't bring myself to call him evil. The man needs help. He needs help, but like I said, racism is not a side effect of any mental condition or medicine or anything. This stuff is knocking around in there if he's coming out and saying it. I don't even care. I don't care. And you know what? If you say things that are horrid enough, I don't care what excuse you've got. It needs to be denounced, and you're an evil piece of shit. Kanye West has endorsed what Hitler did. That is, you know what? Just like Elie Wiesel said, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, in his speech, I've tried to keep memory alive. I've tried to fight those who would forget, because if we forget, we are guilty. We are accomplices. If you forget, if you're unaware, especially if you endorse this stuff, you're an accomplice. He claims to be a Nazi. He's a Nazi. Simple as that in my mind. Anyway, yeah, I don't give him that much slack. Zolfner being from Arizona originally, I doubt it too. I don't think I understand the context on that, but thanks for the super chat. Limited Light, Jesse Owens was the black Olympian in 1936 that Hitler insulted. Right, I remember that he was the Olympian, and I felt like he went to Germany for some short time or something. I don't remember past that, though. Just got in, was listening to historical piece about how good amount of Christian nationalism goes back to the Civil War, courtesy of the Confederacy, because of course it was the CSA, right? Oh, that's pretty interesting. Christian nationalism is destructive nonsense, too. At least with Kanye West, Donald Trump, and Ron DeSantis all running at the same time, we're pretty much guaranteed another Democrat win in 24. Hey, that's true. You know what? Even if Kanye wasn't running, I think we're guaranteed a Democratic win if DeSantis and Trump both run together. I think it's just about guaranteed that a Democrat's going to win. So that is good news. You're right on that point. It's sad L. Ron Hubbard got away with tax evasion. Oh, 100%. Yeah, that guy was a complete and total scumbag. Absolutely terrible. So anyway, if you want to hear more about Kanye, I'm going to be talking about him at length on Tuesday on a live stream. I'm going to be covering... He went on Tim Pool's podcast.
Flow wrong.
And I'm going to be covering that whole thing. It's really, really fascinating. I already watched the whole thing myself. So come there on Tuesday, main channel. Be there or be square. You don't want to be square. That would be terrible to listen to what they had to say. Okay, sweet. That's awesome. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's hit the next story. I'm thinking I'm going to cut out the Vincent James story because that was really, really long. And I'm way behind on everything. I'm going to have to cut one of the stories. So I guess we'll just go with the next one, which is... Hold on. Done with that. Arizona. Okay, this one is funny and crazy. So that last one was sad. This one is funny and crazy. So we'll go with the funny, crazy one. Hold on. God. Gotta get this aligned correctly. Sorry. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. Let's hit the next story, shall we? I wish I could have seen the face Trump made when Kanye asked him to be his running mate. Oh my God, that would have been fantastic, right? Oh, there's a whole thing about that I want to talk about on Tuesday too. So come to that. It's gonna be pretty interesting. All right, let me reset my camera. Okay, cool. Let's hit the next one.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution necessary.
Your time is up.
Arizona elections officials held a public comment and like a Q&A segment recently after the election took place. Now, if you're unaware of what happened in Arizona in the Arizona elections in 2022, if this is like 5 years in the future or something, let me give you a little rundown. Kari Lake was running for governor as a Republican. She's a Trump sycophant, and she lost. And as a result of losing, she and Donald Trump went on a full-blown tirade, a full attack on the Arizona election systems and made all kinds of claims of voter fraud, incorrect claims of voter fraud, of course. Got people whipped into a blood frenzy, and lo and behold, during the Q&A section at this Arizona elections thing that was held, like this board meeting or whatever, people lost their minds. So I wanted to listen to some of the crazier, more unhinged things that people spouted off at this election meeting, basically. But before we do, let me show you how we got here. Listen to what Kari Lake had to say about the election, among some other things. This is late November 2022. Check out what she had to say about it.
I had one report, Steve, where they rolled somebody in a bed to vote, an elderly person who wanted to vote.
Okay, is that a bad thing? This is called high voter turnout. Fantastic, right? They roll them in a bed so that they can vote. That's our civic duty. That's our system working, right?
When that person got up to vote, they watched as their ballot went in and out, never got counted. This is absolute outrageousness on behalf of Maricopa County. I don't know how it's coincidental.
What? Okay, so somebody tries to vote and they couldn't vote because the ballot wasn't going in, or what is she talking about? I don't understand. If somebody was at the place and wanted to vote and they had the ballot, what was the hang up? I don't get what she's saying here. This makes no sense at all. But you know what? It doesn't have to make sense because people view her as the elections expert. She knows how all of this works, and she's claiming that there's fraud, so there must be, right?
How it's coincidental, I can't even imagine. I mean, don't insult my intelligence by acting like this was just, oops, we screwed up.
Don't insult her intelligence. I'm sorry. It's hard not to at this point. Late November 2022, she went out there and continued her tirade against the election systems in Arizona. This is deeply destructive to democracy. Although, for what it's worth, she's not going to be governor. So it is kind of entertaining in its own way to watch her flail around like a fish out of water and fail miserably over and over again. I don't think it's not good that she's saying and doing these things, but there isn't much of a risk that she's going to actually take office. So we can get a little bit of entertainment out of it at least, right?
And they're dragging their feet. They don't want to give us the information, so we're asking the courts to force them to give us information. This is not our main case. When our main case drops, they will hear it. Trust me, they will hear it. And they better think really hard before Ducey and Hobbs signed their John Hancock to that certification.
So Ducey and Hobbs, I think, are like the Secretary of State and the current governor. I'm not really sure. Anyways, they're the ones that have to sign off on election results, basically. So what she just said was they better be careful and think long and hard, that's what she said, about signing their John Hancock to these election results, thus implying that this will be their death warrant. That's what she is saying when she says John Hancock, because John Hancock's signature was famously humongous, intentionally big and easy to read as basically an FU to the British government or whatever when they were about to go toward the English government, when they were about to go to war with them. John Hancock signed, was it the Declaration of Independence? I think it was. Yeah, it was the Declaration of Independence he signed. And he wanted to make sure his name was clear and legible on that paper because he knew that, you know, it was basically his death warrant that he was signing. That is the implication behind what Kari Lake just said. They better think long and hard, that's what she said, before they sign their John Hancock to this document. I.e., if you sign this and say our election is complete and Katie Hobbs takes the governorship in Arizona in 2022, this will be your death warrant. How is this? I mean, this is what a dog whistle is. Most people don't hear anything. They don't think anything of it. They just move on with their lives. Oh, that's a common phrase for a signature, a John Hancock. Put your John Hancock right here when you're signing a check or something. But in this context, and when it's being spoken to this set of people, this certain subset of the population understands fully what she's talking about. That is how a dog whistle works. That is how propaganda works. And in my opinion, something like that, she should, you know, it should be taken as the threat that it is, with all legal implications that go along with it, if there are any.
They better think long and hard about
That's what she said.
What they know about what happened in this election. Because when we drop our lawsuit, they will hear it. We have whistleblowers coming forward and at least one smoking gun in it.
Hey, fantastic. Turn them over. That's all we need. We just need to see what you've got. Would you be surprised to find that up to this point, she has turned over absolutely zero evidence of wrongdoing in the Arizona election, and the courts have received zero evidence from her about this? Not a single court in Arizona or elsewhere has passed through legislation has heard a case determining that Kari Lake was right. There was fraud sufficient to turn over the Arizona election. Weird, right? She said she had a smoking gun a second ago. Well, language like this obviously gets people whipped into a blood frenzy. That is the purpose of this type of language, this John Hancock language and whatnot, all of this other stuff. So at this election meeting where these people are like holding this, you know, this event, these are the like election supervisors that are holding this thing, this Q&A period. where people can go up there, ask questions, or make comments or whatever, and then leave. Well, a bunch of people came from out of state, interestingly enough. People that don't even live in Arizona show up to this Q&A period to tell these election supervisors how they feel. Bizarrely. It got really weird. So let's listen to a couple. Again, these people don't even live here. What are they doing at this meeting? They're completely unaffected by the results. Check this one out. Late November 2022 is when this happened. Listen to what this woman had to say.
I'm questioning why is nobody talking about us over the media? I'm nobody. I'm just like...
Because it's complete nonsense.
Mother trying to save my family because my kids were taken from me when they were little because I fought for the medical freedom because I don't go there, okay? But I want to tell you this, guys.
Okay. Your kids aren't just taken from you. I'm not sure what she's talking about right now. They won't just take kids. I mean, if you're in a vaccine mandate school system, like West Virginia, for example, you are mandated to have all of your vaccines or certain specific vaccines before you go to school. Now, if you don't want to get those vaccines, you have an out. There is an option. You can homeschool your kid, for example. That's a choice. And then they don't have to be vaccinated. Where along the way did this woman mess up? What did she do that got her kids taken? There's something more than just, I don't want them vaccinated. There is something more to the story. What was it, I wonder?
I feel this like a joke, but please, Arizona, I love Arizona. I love all of you. I love you, Stephen.
Again, a lot of these people that came up here don't even live in Arizona. They're from out of state. They're like Trumpist nutcases that follow him around to rallies, and they showed up to this. Same exact thing with people from Trump rallies, from all over the country, showing up to school board meetings and threatening the board members and going absolutely nuts over the most ridiculous stuff. It's all like MAGA extremist nutcases that are doing this stuff.
I voted for you, okay? This is not about hate, love and hate. You know what? Love is to say no to wrongdoing, and
Okay, I guess, but there was no wrongdoing here. The election was completely above board. That's the weird thing. Why are we listening to these nutter butters say this nutter buttery? It's so bizarre. It gets even more bizarre if you can believe it. Late November 2022, that's when all of these are from. Listen to what this woman had to say at the stand.
I came here today to get an up-close and personal look at the 7 traitors to the United States Constitution.
Okay, again,
for
please.
Sitting at that desk.
They did absolutely nothing wrong. They ran the election as they were supposed to. This woman has very obviously bought into conspiracy theories about the election, and it's deeply sad. And my mom had a dress exactly like that when I was like 8 years old.
You were set to receive a subpoena this morning at 9:30.
Back in 1997 or something. So that should tell you something about this woman's fashion choices.
Receive a subpoena. You were set to receive a subpoena this morning at 9:30.
How would she know that, first of all? Second, what was the subpoena for? And how did she know that they were set to receive one at 9:30 specifically? This makes no sense. If you're subpoenaed, to my knowledge, you are served that piece of paper by a process server who will track you down whenever they possibly can, at any time or whatever.
What did you do? You called your meeting for 8 a.m. What are you hiding?
Okay, that makes no sense at all. Can't the process server just, bring them the subpoena at 9 still? I don't understand what she's getting at here.
I will not repeat your election crimes.
No, please do. That would be absolutely useful. Please repeat them for us.
I will just say, not certifying the machines, constitutes a form of interference. And in case no one...
Not certifying the machines? I don't even understand what she means by that. Not certifying the machines?
In case no one has enlightened you people, interference in an election in the United States of America, Mr. Gates, is a capital offense. It's considered treason.
That does not sound right. I don't think that's true, but okay.
Punishable by the death penalty. So it's obvious why you, Hobbs, and Deep State Ducey are desperate to keep your cronies in office. The voting booth is supposed to be a time for a peaceful revolution. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution necessary.
Your time is up.
That's disturbing stuff right there. Seriously. That's disturbing stuff. She's basically saying she's prepared to literally engage in terrorist actions to get rid of these people. I can't even believe they're sitting here in front of these people without security. Well, I guess there's a little cop over here in the corner. This tiny little fella right here with the little itty-bitty badge on his chest. So there's that. But what is this woman doing over here? Shaking her hands like she just don't care? What is this? Absolutely bizarre. Every one of these people. God, it's weird. Okay, hang on. There's a siren. Give it a second to go away. Okay, cool. If you think that one's weird, it gets even weirder. That one is not even the weirdest one. Listen to this one.
Justice, you high and mighty politicians don't even know the meaning of the word. Fairness, which of you has any left? Not one. All your dealings are crooked. You give justice in exchange for bribes. These men are born sinners, lying from their earliest words. They are...
Okay, now think about what she's saying here and the way that she's phrasing it. She has done something that televangelists have been doing for a while. She's mastered something that televangelists have been trying to master, and that is sounding like the Bible. Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, he mastered this skill too. When he wrote the Book of Mormon, he mastered this type of language. He mastered the ability to say something that sounds like it's right out of the Bible. Only the interesting thing is the 1700s version of the Bible, that translation of the Bible sounded very different than the modern day translation of the Bible. So Joseph Smith, when he translated the Book of Mormon, supposedly translated, quote unquote, when he translated the Book of Mormon, he made it sound like his edition of the 1700s King James version of the Bible. So it sounds absolutely nothing like the modern day Bible. But she has mastered the skill of making her speech sound just like the modern day Bible, just like televangelists have done. So she's basically trying to lay a prophecy out for us. She's implying, if not outright saying, that what she's laying down here for us is a prophecy from God. So let's listen to this prophecy from God, this supposed prophecy about the election system or the election supervisors or whatever.
Their earliest words, they are poisonous, deadly snakes, cobras that close their ears to the most expert of charmers.
Do snakes have ears? I've never seen a snake ear before. I would love to see one.
Oh God, break off their fangs. Tear out the teeth of these young lions, Lord. Let them disappear like water into thirsty ground. Make their weapons useless in their hands.
See, this sounds exactly like something you'd read out of the book of, I don't know, the Song of Solomon or Proverbs or something like that. She has mastered the art of saying things that sounds like it's coming straight from the Bible when it's not.
Is useless in their hands. Let them be as snails that dissolve into slime, and as those who die at birth, who never see the sun. God will sweep away both old and young. He will destroy them more quickly than wicked men, more quickly than a cooking pot can feel the blazing fire of thorns beneath it. The godly shall rejoice in the triumph of the right. They shall walk in the blood-stained fields of slaughtered wicked men.
Did you catch that? The godly shall walk in the blood-stained fields of wicked men. What is that? What she said?
The blood-stained fields of slaughtered wicked men.
She's talking about the people standing before her. Seriously, this is a death cult. It is deeply disturbing to hear people talk like this. Honestly. Is there anything knocking around in that noggin? Is it just empty space between those two ears? I don't understand. This is just bizarre and creepy and weird. And somebody's telling me that snakes do not, in fact, have ears. So this couldn't possibly be biblical. Or this is something that God would know, right? That snakes don't have ears? I'm just saying. Did she just make this up right off the top of her head? Of course she did.
Then at last, everyone will know that good is rewarded and that there is a God who judges justly here on earth. Thank you.
Dude, just creep city over here. My God. And look at this guy. All right, this guy needs to get a haircut straight up. I'm sorry. I know I sound like a boomer right now, but his hair is just all over the place. Listen to what he had to say.
Slave. That's what I am to this system.
Oh, and look, there's a woman doing jazz hands in the background. Why is she doing jazz hands back there? What does that mean?
Slave. That's what I am to this system, to your corruption. This is outrageous.
You know what's truly disgusting? When somebody very obviously doesn't understand what the meaning of the word slave is, starts misusing it and claiming to be one themselves. That is truly disgusting. He has no idea what slavery is like, what it looks like, how it affects people or who it affects, and it's deeply disgusting for him to claim to be a slave to any system at all. Grotesque, maybe the word.
This system, to your corruption. This is outrageous. This is a national crisis, and you're giving people 2 minutes to address a national crisis. And the way that you guys can just sit there, it's disgusting watching you pledge allegiance to my flag.
Actually, it's America's flag.
Was disgusting the way that you sold us out. You said you don't have the statutory authority to do anything. You're going to take a yes-no vote. What does that tell us?
They don't have the statutory authority because there's nothing to do. The election was not stolen. It wasn't fraudulent. There wasn't a mass fraud on a level big enough to flip votes. I'm sure out of hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, some jagoff probably went to the ballot box and also mailed a ballot in. And that has been caught. I mean, there were multiple examples of Trump supporters doing that exact thing. You know why? Because Trump told them to do that exact thing. Hang on. One second.
So y'all
You 600. Here. I'm not going to play too much of this. I just wanted to have it in there. I'm just going to play a short clip of him saying it, basically.
600,000 people could vote by absentee in this state. Are you confident in that system?
Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way, because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that.
He told people to vote twice, and they did. They most definitely did, and they were caught doing so. But would you be surprised to find that there was not a systemic effort or even any systemic event taking place of Democrats going out and voting multiple times to put their candidate into office in any state, in any county, in any district in the United States in 2020, 2016, 2018, or 2022. None of them. But go on, keep calling yourself a slave. Keep listening to what he has to say here.
Yes or no? If it's just yes, then why are you here?
Let me step back a little bit for context.
You're going to take a yes-no vote. What does that tell us? Yes or no? If it's just yes, then why are you here? Why are you here then? You have discretion. And when you certify something, you're saying that it's trustworthy. There's nothing trustworthy about this. This is theater. It's optics. I was a longtime prosecutor. I went after drug traffickers. This is vote trafficking.
Is that true? He was a prosecutor that went after drug traffickers, did he say? Something tells me that he's completely full of it. First of all, I have no idea who this guy is. And second, I would think that if he was a prosecutor for some period in his life, he would have enough money in retirement funds to get a haircut. But I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe prosecuting drug crimes doesn't pay very much.
This is vote trafficking at its finest. I've seen the criminal element. You are vote traffickers.
What is a vote trafficker? I don't understand. What does that even mean? What would that look like? You move drugs over the border if you're a drug trafficker, and you move votes over the border if you're a vote trafficker? What? This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I just don't understand.
You are a vote trafficker. Flagrant. Criminal. What are you going to do about it? You've sold us out. You've sold us out. You've sold us out. So we're not here to be civil. You're worried about language?
We're not here to be civil. That should tell you all you need to know. They're not here to be civil. And again, probably for the third time, these people are not all from Arizona. Many of these people traveled from other areas to speak at these events. You know why? Trumpists, the MAGA movement, the extremists like this are organized. They know when these events are taking place. They know where they're taking place. They know where to go. They know who to talk to. They know what to say when they get up there to the lectern. They've done this a billion times at school board meetings and other places. This is an organized effort, an organized campaign. And they're not here to be civil. Disturbing stuff.
Language? We're worried about our voices being stolen and never getting a fair election again. That's what we're worried about.
Well, you shouldn't be worried about that. It was a fair election before, and it's a fair election this time. Aside from Republicans getting in there and trying to throw a wrench into the works, there was a Trump supporter who was famously a poll watcher last election, and then this previous one, he actually got into a position where he was capable of copying data, voter data over, and did so. He copied voter data over to look for anomalies, quote unquote. I have a video about it. Not doing it this time. I may do another story on it next time. We'll see. But anyway, the point is the MAGA people are doing everything they can to throw a wrench into the works and give their guys an edge. everything that they can and scream about being persecuted when they don't get to give their guy an edge.
Worried about?
Let me step back.
Is being stolen and never getting a fair election again. That's what we're worried about. Freedom. So a curse.
Look, people in the background doing jazz hands again. Why? You got me.
So a curse upon you, a curse upon all of you, you smug people. What, you got another chicken farm that needs to burn down, Mr. Hickman?
Did you catch what he just said? I had to fix my camera. You got another chicken farm that needs to be burned down? Is that a threat from this guy? It most definitely sounded like one. He's looking at one of the election supervisors and in a veiled way threatening to burn down his farm, it sounded like.
People. What, you got another chicken farm that needs to burn down, Mr. Hickman?
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Am I bothering you? Because this
by openly threatening people, you're bothering me a little bit.
This election bothered me. And you're doing nothing about it. I don't care about that stupid buzzard. This is sickening. You have the power as the chairperson to enlarge the time limits and actually hear your constituents instead of putting a muzzle on them.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I mean, maybe they would if he was saying something valuable and not threatening the people standing in front of him. This is so disturbing, dude. How did people get to this point that they're willing to sit here and do jazz hands for 20 minutes straight? I don't understand. I don't know, man. This is just crazy. These people are unhinged. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. All right, let me take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how Trump became a messiah. So give us 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Telltale Channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media. Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. Welcome back. All right, let's see here. Hang on. Actually, you know what? I think instead of cutting one of the stories, I'm going to cut voicemails. I'm just going to do the segment in the voicemail portion on Twitch. So I'm going to skip voicemails, and I'll do this same voicemail segment next week instead of this week. That'll be good. Yeah.
Donald Trump.
That's good. That's from the voicemails. All right. I am still going to move over to Twitch after this, but yeah, actually the next one we're going to hit is white nationalists and Kanye West's real political interests other than anti-Semitism. So, all right, let's see. Where was I? Hang on. Just a warning, it's not a reason to be lax in voting just because Trump and DeSantis don't have a chance. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. Never, ever be lax in voting. It's very important that you get out there and vote. You need to crawl over broken glass to vote because they are. They're crawling over broken glass for it. It's a religious mandate that they vote. You know, the nutcases, the white nationalists, the extremists, the televangelist fans. Those people believe that it's a religious mandate to vote. Get out there and vote. I mean, it's over now, but it's important to remember this every time. Not just for the main elections, not just for the midterm elections, but runoffs, Local elections, school board elections, anything. It's important. Let's see. Carrie Lake, don't insult my intelligence. Me, how can I insult something that doesn't exist? Exactly. She's a ridiculous human being. She basically just parrots everything that Donald Trump says. And in my humble opinion, I believe that that's probably because she's vying for Donald Trump's vice president position. Marjorie Taylor Greene's fighting hard for it. So is Carrie Lake, in my opinion. That's what it seems like to me. We'll see how things play out. Emily Sigmund, okay, the minute people start praying / pretending they're speaking on God's behalf during any kind of political event, they need to be asked to leave. 100%, absolutely. Yeah, this is not a political event. I'm sorry, this is not a religious event. If you want to do religious stuff, do it at church or outside. That's fine too. This is a political event. The two should never mix, seems to me. Anyway, Shit Channel for you. Thank you for the super chat and for the laughy faces. They are crazy. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Jessica Starkman, thanks for truth. BTW, Weisel is pronounced Wiesel. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Thank you for the correction on that. Yeah. Ellie Wiesel. I feel like I'm mispronouncing the first name, too. Because that's not the... This is a nickname. He used a different name in the book. It was a longer version of it, so I'm not sure how he pronounces his nickname. But anyway, he's a pretty stand-up guy. Emily Sigmund, I wish someone would ask these types, can you define slave, please? And after they say whatever they think, the person can read the definition off of Google and then let them sit down. Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is Kanye West actually called himself a slave, too, to this system or whatever. In this discussion with Tim Pool, he called himself a slave. Well, he said, well, I'm not going to use the S word. It's so passé. Well, if it's so passé, then why are you, comparing yourself to it? If it's true, it's true. It shouldn't matter if it's fashionable or not. I don't know. It just drives me nuts. This guy drives me nuts. Here's a joke I read a while back. What do you call a werewolf YouTuber? A like and subscribe. Oh, that's funny. I like it. That's good. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for the super chat, all that jazz. Captain Gars, there's a good point. Get out and vote unless you want to go back to 1845. Yeah, absolutely. It's very important that we get out there and vote, no matter what. Crawl over broken glass for it. Okay, cool. Give me a second here. Let's see here. Hold on. All right. Let's start on the next story. Hang on. Let me reset the camera. Okay, here we go.
Seriously, I've really studied a lot of history. Plus, I had family that was there. And so, I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say you like the uniforms? But that's about it.
No. There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things. Hey, Nedden, what did you think about?
Doesn't get much more on the doesn't get much more on the nose than that. Now, if you haven't heard about this is Kanye West coming out and saying that he loves Hitler, that he is an open, avowed Nazi. His words, not mine. But I was wondering what other views the guy has, because just about all he ever talks about is Jews. That's it. That's all he ever mentions. What other things does he believe in? How does he feel about other stuff? So I decided to go to some of the other players in the market that Kanye has found himself in. As you can see, he went on Alex Jones to talk about how much he loves Hitler, and he brought his boy Nick Fuentes with him. Now, Nick Fuentes is also an avowed, open Nazi and white supremacist. He believes that black people are genetically inferior to white people. Kind of interesting that he's hanging out with Kanye, but okay, you do you, I suppose. Here's somebody else in the market. Here's somebody else in the Kanye/Nick Fuentes market. A fella named Vincent James. He was a founding member of the America First Party, political party, or political action committee or whatever, which is, co-run or whatever by Nick Fuentes. I think Nick Fuentes actually started AFPAC, but Vincent James has been involved in it for a long time. He's spoken at their events and all that. And he's friends with Nick Fuentes. So he's a good gauge to figure out what else Kanye believes. Because Kanye pretty much believes exactly what all of these other people believe. All of these other white supremacists and neo-Nazis. Oh, and also he apparently has the exact same microphone as me. That's weird. Okay, so let's listen to just one example of what Vincent James, avowed white supremacist and Nazi, believes. This is from late June 2022.
And we are the Christian Taliban. And we will not stop until The Handmaid's Tale is a reality. And even worse than that, to be honest.
Wait, was that the end of it? That was. Oh, yeah. No, that was actually supposed to go at the very beginning of the video, so I don't know. I'll find somewhere to fit it in when I do the editing. By the by, before we actually do listen to this, this came out immediately after Roe v. Wade was erased by the Supreme Court.
We are the Christian Taliban. This is the era of Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is on the rise, and people are thirsty for it. They are hungry for this.
Christian nationalism. He thinks people want Christian nationalism. Well, some certainly do. But trust me, believe me when I say this, if you're a Christian, you don't want to live in the world that he has in mind. It's not just a Christian nationalist state that he wants, because he's not just a Christian nationalist. He's also a white nationalist, a white supremacist, and a Nazi. You most definitely don't want that. You don't want what he has in mind. Unless you are also all of those things, in which case, why are you even watching my channel?
Yes. And we are the Christian Taliban. And we will not stop until The Handmaid's Tale is a reality. And even worse than that, to be honest. Yes, we do have to start rolling back. There was this article from The Atlantic where it's like, well, Alito is on a mission to roll back the rights of women. To roll back the past 100 years of rights that were given to women. Yes. Yes, that is what we're doing.
It is, yeah. I don't see how anybody could possibly see it any differently. It's most definitely what, the far right is trying to do. And Alito is definitely on the far right.
And it's only...
Alito, by the by, is a Supreme Court justice who has a vested interest in destroying all of our most sacred rights. Privacy rights, right to bodily autonomy through abortion, women's rights, all kinds of stuff. They even quoted a judge that was famous for upholding burning people at the stake or some crazy thing like that. His buddy Clarence Thomas, another Supreme Court justice, even said he wants to revisit gay marriage and, he said he wanted to revisit the Supreme Court decision that established gay marriage. Interestingly enough, that also established interracial marriage. The reason that's funny is because Clarence Thomas is in an interracial marriage, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that these people most definitely do want to do all this stuff. Believe them when they come out and tell you what their plans are. Kanye comes out and says, I am a Nazi, I love Hitler. Believe him. Believe him. That's what he's saying. We should be believing him if that's what he's saying. They say that Vincent James, one of the founders of AFPAC, this conference that had Marjorie Taylor Greene speak at it, this guy is saying we want to roll back women's rights. We want to erase voting rights for women. Believe them when they say it. Believe them.
doing. And it's only going to get worse for you from here.
So that was from June. That was from right after Roe v. Wade was erased by the Supreme Court. But he's had some more recent things to say since this movement got air, because Nick Fuentes and Kanye West went to speak at the White House. I'm sorry, wait, let me rephrase. Because Nick Fuentes and Kanye went to speak with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, at Trump's resort or whatever. This movement's got oxygen now. That's why we're talking about it, because it has oxygen. So let's see what other things they have in mind. Late November 2022. Listen to what else Vincent James has had to say.
It all started with, allowing women to wear pants, and not wearing long skirts. And you can see the change in the way that they dress. A lot of that started with the women's liberation movement. And so a lot of people say,
yeah, okay. So he says you can see the change in the way they dress. Yeah, of course you can see the way of course you can see the way that their dress changes throughout the years. Is that a bad thing? Why does he want to force women to wear dresses? I don't understand. Why aren't women allowed to wear pants? These people are not for freedom. They're not for freedom of speech. They're not for freedom of bodily autonomy. They're not for freedom, period. They are for control. Authoritarian, fascistic, top-down, hierarchical control. I talked about this in another video recently. There's this thing called the F scale. It's a personality test created after World War II by a guy named Theodore Adorno. It was a test to determine if somebody is likely to fall for what Hitler wanted. These are the personality qualities that Nazis were likely to have. Conventionalism, a conformity to the traditional societal norms and values of the middle class. Authoritarian submission, a passive notion toward adhering to conventional norms and values. Superstition, strict adherence to religion and ethics. Exaggerated concern with sexual goings-on. Being obsessed with how women dress, for example. Being obsessed with the LGBT community and what they're up to. Let's see, I was looking for another specific one. Being obsessed with power and toughness, alpha male, that type of thing. These are the personality flaws that the Nazis or Nazi followers had. Does any of this sound familiar to anybody? Pushing and condemning individuals who don't adhere to conventional values. Sound familiar?
Hey, it's second wave feminism, that's the issue. It's third wave feminism, that's the issue. No, it's not. It's all feminism from the very beginning of the suffragettes all the way up until now. It's all of that. This is all the root cause of those things that I mentioned. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but it's completely the truth. And men know it. Men know it. Even if they don't want to admit it or not. All right. So let's
Men know that the source of the world's problems are women get to vote. That's the source of the problems? Hell, I guess I'm just not a man then. Weird. I thought I was. This guy's telling me I'm not.
So let's that's why we have to go back. That's why we have to go back 100 years. That's why we have to go back. That's why we do, in fact, have to start taking away rights.
Jesus Christ, dude. What does this donation say? He got a donation, some anonymous donation during his stream. What you just said was anti-Semitic. I am reporting you to cozy.tv and the ADL. We know this because FOIA requests have uncovered that Gloria Steinem was a CIA asset and she's a Jew. Okay, obviously very tongue-in-cheek there. He is, very anti-Semitic, naturally. This guy has always been anti-Semitic. He is part of Kanye's belief system. They are effectively one and the same. You know, a few minutes ago, I talked about the fact that these people don't believe in free speech. Never have, never will. It's never been about free speech. It's never been about people's rights. Never been about freedom, period. They don't want people to have freedom. They want to control people. Always have since day one. Here's Richard Spencer, famed Nazi. I believe he's been canceled now. Talking about free speech, as a matter of fact. Listen to what he had to say about this. I mean, this is the founder of the alt-right movement, of the neo-Nazi movement in America. Or one of the founding members, or one of the more famous people who pushed it forward. I think this is from 2018, late May 2018.
But yeah, it's I would put our lot with the government as opposed to Silicon Valley. And you know, as many of these senators pointed out, Facebook has, you know, the equivalent of China is using their service on a daily basis, and a few multiples of that will use it on a monthly basis. I guess I might use it on a monthly basis. I simply don't use Facebook. And if I log in once a month, that's a lot.
But as far as government regulation, I mean, yes, I think in the short term we would favor government regulation of speech, but long term, are we even pro-free speech?
No, of course not. But we have to use this platform in order.
So we're being radically honest here.
Yes, radically pragmatic. Yes. Yeah.
One interesting angle on this was that, it's a news article, Facebook bans German historian for saying Islam is not part of Germany.
They were never in favor of rights. They never were, and they never will be in favor of rights. When I say they, I'm talking about Kanye West, Vincent James, anybody from the America First movement like Nick Fuentes, or even Richard Spencer, like the guy that we just talked to. They're not in favor of free speech. They're not in favor of bodily autonomy. They're not in favor of privacy rights. They're not in favor of anything. They don't want anybody to have these rights. They want a full-blown dictatorship. And if you don't believe me on that, stick around. I'll prove it. Listen to this one, late November 2022. Here's another example of Vincent James laying out the foundation of Kanye West's belief system, ultimately. Of his, Nick Fuentes, Richard Spencer, and Kanye West's belief system.
We have, in fact, infiltrated the mainstream flank of the GOP. Just look at what Tucker Carlson is talking about lately. These things just sort of happen on their own. Now, of course, if we had a platform, if we were able to speak freely, if we were allowed on YouTube still and allowed on these platforms still, then these things would have happened a lot quicker. But you can see which way the wind is blowing. The way that Tucker Carlson is talking right now is because the wind is blowing that direction. The way that Charlie Kirk is talking on Twitter, the way that Matt Walsh is talking on Twitter is because they see which way the wind is blowing. Now, whether they're authentic or not in their views, I would argue that some of them certainly aren't, and they just see which way the wind is blowing. There are some that are, and this is what Tucker Carlson is talking about the 1965 Hart-Celler Immigration and Nationality Act, and talking about what Ted Kennedy promised during this act, and saying that it completely transformed the nation, and talking about demographic change. Like, this is something, these are things that you never thought you would see on Fox News. You have people taking over school boards, and you have, 1/3 of the people that got elected into House of Representatives were all like they denied the results of the 2020 election. People taking over school boards and talking about the degeneracy that is being pushed in schools. We have parts of the nation talking about secession, talking about banning gay marriage and banning contraceptives. And we have, in fact, our beliefs have, in fact, infiltrated the mainstream flank of GOP politics because people are beginning to see that our views, our worldview, our beliefs are the inevitable conclusion, or need to be, rather, the inevitable conclusion.
When he says that, he means anti-Semitism and white supremacy. That's what he is. He is a neo-Nazi white supremacist. Basically, he's like a Nazi. I think he even claims that position for himself. Like I said, Kanye did. Nick Fuentes claims that. I mean, they're not usually that on the nose and open about it because they realize that they will be canceled to complete shit if they come out and say that they're neo-Nazis like that, usually. That's kind of what happened with Richard Spencer. So they beat around the bush, they dog whistle, and they refer to, the cabal or the elites or the deep state rather than calling it who they believe it is, the Jews. Kanye just came out and said it's the Jews. But that's who he's talking about. That's exactly what, that is exactly the situation that we find ourselves in now. He believes that the mainstream of Republican politics have adopted these anti-Semitic talking points, these anti-Jewish neo-Nazi talking points. Now, I feel like he's probably kind of trying to fluff his audience a little bit. I don't think that it's as bad as he's making it out to be. After Kanye came out and said all that stuff, he was heavily denounced by a lot of people, like on the right, not just on the left. Vincent James is correct in the fact that many people on the right have either stayed completely silent or, come out in favor of what Kanye was saying. But another good portion of them have come out against it. There seems to be like some kind of an internal war in the Republican Party right now about over anti-Semitism. But you know what? I cannot give people a pass if they stay quiet on this. I'm sorry, I simply cannot. I'm talking like right-wingers who just don't want to get involved in this, like right-wing, political people like Steven Crowder or Tim Pool or whoever else. Now, those two people that I just named specifically, they have spoken up about this. They have given their opinion on it. And they kind of came out against Kanye for the most part a little bit or whatever. So I'm not referring to them specifically here, but if you're a political commentator and you don't come out and explicitly denounce Kanye, you're an accomplice. This is the Nobel Peace Prize speech given by a guy named Elie Wiesel, I believe is his name. He is a Holocaust survivor. He was at Auschwitz and he survived at the work camp, lost his father there, but he survived. And he gave a speech after accepting a Nobel Peace Prize. And in the speech, he says, and I quote, I have tried to keep memories alive. I have tried to keep memory alive. I tried to fight those who would forget, because if we forget, we are guilty. We are accomplices. If you're silent, like, if you're a shoe salesman at, like, Adidas, if you work at, like, an Adidas store or something, I don't expect you to go around to every customer and scream in their face, I don't like Kanye anymore because he's a Nazi. But if this is your field, if this is the type of thing you do for work, if you're a political commentator and you're on the right and you don't come out and openly denounce Nazism and what Kanye had to say, if you are silent, you're complicit and you're an accomplice. This guy is beyond an accomplice. He's a perpetrator. He fully agrees with what happened during World War II on the German side. So, yeah, that doesn't even really fully apply to him because he's just got absolutely monstrous views. Well, I already listened to this one. Give me a second. Okay, let's see here. Which one is this? Yeah. Now, earlier I said I was going to prove to you that they want a dictatorship, remember? That's a pretty tall claim, it seems to me. Listen to what he has to say here, mid-November 2022.
As far as forcing people to believe what we believe, yes, I completely agree. When Nick says in that clip that was posted by
Nick Fuentes, who he's referring to, Kanye West's friend.
Wing Watch, that we need basically a dictatorship, yes, I agree. Yes, ban the gay flag in schools. Yes, ban teaching of gender ideology or gender identity or gender expression in schools.
Who is teaching any of this stuff in schools anyways?
Yes, ban the gay straight alliance and other groups just like them from operating in schools. Yes, ban LGBTQ plus pro pedophile groups from operating in schools.
Okay, no, most definitely ban pro blank groups, but those aren't even in schools anyways. Those are probably banned anyways. Being LGBT does not make you a groomer, despite their best efforts to conflate the two things. It's just more bigotry and more hatred and more propaganda intended to destroy a group of people for no goddamn fucking reason other than you hate them. That's it.
Completely do away with the entire curriculum that is in place within red state schools and create a brand new curriculum. Create a curriculum that is pro-God. Fuck what they say about the separation of church and state. You shouldn't give a shit about that because that's something that they got control of back in the 1960s. There were 2 Supreme Court rulings on that. By the way, both of them were Jewish Americans who brought these cases to the Supreme Court. That was something that was done back then. Fuck what they say. Fuck their rules. They say fuck your rules. How about we start to say, no, fuck your rules?
Well, the problem is that the Constitution very specifically outlines what you are allowed to do, and this guy is saying he wants to do away with the Constitution. The system of governance that we have set up right now is one of democracy, where people vote for the leader. He doesn't want that. He wants to scrap it. He wants to erase what we've got going on right now and install a dictator and ban free speech, ban, in the form of like banning LGBT flags, ban people's free choices of bodily autonomy, ban this, ban that, and while you're at it, blame the Jews for all of your problems. Did you catch that one thing right in the middle there where he said Jews were to blame for separation of church and state going through in the 60s or whatever other thing? Blame everybody else for your own problems. That is the Nazi way, which is exactly what he is. So that should give you a pretty clear idea of Kanye West and what he believes, his other beliefs tangential to his hatred of Jews. And trust me when I say you don't want to live in the world that Kanye West has in mind for all of us. He wants blasphemy laws, of all things. I don't have a clip of that, but that's something that he talked about in his interview with Alex Jones, or Ali Alexander, his friend Ali Alexander, talked about blasphemy laws. He wants to send women back 100 years. He wants a full-blown dictatorship. That is what Kanye West wants. That is who the guy is. And I, to the bottom of my heart, really do hope that Kanye has completely destroyed his reputation permanently. I hope he has no way of regaining a position of stature, because the guy currently seems obsessed with becoming president before the day he dies. I hope I never live to see that time, because it will very likely be another World War II situation if that happens. After hearing Kanye openly praise Hitler like that,
I love about Hitler a lot of things. Hey, Ned.
And hearing his friends and political allies talk about all the things that he said, I cannot imagine it would be pretty if this dude ever got into office. So let's make sure we never let that happen by getting out there and voting. Crawl over broken glass to vote if that's what it takes, because that is the only thing standing between us and another authoritarian dictatorship. No joke. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Let me take actually, I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to reset my cameras, though. We're going to take a look at Super Chats, and then we're going to move over to Twitch. Hang on. For our last story, which is about Shane Vaughn. Or not Shane Vaughn, I'm sorry. Donald Trump and others. Okay, cool. Amazeballs. That was actually a pretty smooth story. I wasn't fully convinced I was going to be able to pull that story off smoothly, but yeah, I think it went pretty well. Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to start streaming on Twitch simultaneously. I am currently streaming on Twitch as of this moment. But let me just paste a link if you guys want to move over to Twitch. I'm staying on YouTube for another minute or two to read Super Chats and chat and stuff. Boop. There you go. There's my Twitch thingamajigger. McWho's McWhat's-it. So follow me over to Twitch. Oh, God. You know what I just realized? I forgot to set my stream info. Hold the phone. Let me fix my stream info. The stream description currently is Nutter Butters spread Nutter Buttery all over everything. It's a mess. Close enough, I suppose. Yeah, I'm streaming on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm streaming on Twitch. Follow me over there. We're going to take a look at Super Chats. And when we're done with Super Chats, we're going to take a look at our last story, which it has Shane Vaughn in it, among others. Making this gorgeous face right here. Thanks for sticking with me through that whole Kanye story. I thought it was a fascinating story, but boy, was that a long one. Okay, cool. Where was I? Scott Weber. Owen, look up the original America First movement in 1941. Charles Lindbergh was the leader, and he praised Hitler. I didn't realize Charles Lindbergh was the leader, but you're absolutely right. The original America First movement, let me explain how that worked. The original America First movement was started in 1941, or was at the height of its prominence, at least, in 1941. And the goal behind the movement was to give support to the Nazis during World War II, basically. And the way that they did that, they knew that was going to be a little too on the nose. They knew it was going to be hard to garner support from the general public for such a polarizing, grotesque, evil figure as Hitler. So instead of coming out and saying, hey, Hitler's fantastic, why doesn't everybody love Hitler like us? If you love Hitler, join this party. Instead of saying that, they said, we should be isolationist. We shouldn't get involved. This is how a dog whistle works. Another example of a dog whistle. If you don't want to be involved in World War II, if you think we should mind our own business, join AFPAC. Join the America First movement. That was the original America First movement in 1941. The founder, as Scott Weber, my super chatter, says, praised Hitler, just like the leaders of the AFPAC movement today, America First today. Kanye, Nick Fuentes, Vincent James, and others. They are neo-Nazis. Oh, I'm sorry. And you know who else? Marjorie Taylor Greene. She spoke at an AFPAC event, America First. Just blows me away, man. Just blows me away that anybody doesn't see straight through this. Doesn't see it for exactly what it is. Maybe they do. Okay, cool. Thank you for the super chat. That was a really interesting one. I'm going to have to insert that later into the original. Emily Sigmund, as common as sexism is today, most men don't think women shouldn't be able to vote. Most men are totally fine with women wearing pants. Vincent is completely deluded if he thinks most men think like him. Oh, yeah, I agree. Most men are fully aware that women should be allowed to vote. But a lot of people believe that everybody is a hero of their own story. Everybody. Even the most disgusting, evil person alive. Hitler believed that he was the hero of his own story. He thought that he was doing the right thing. He blamed Jews for every one of society's ills and believed that if he got rid of them, the world would be better. He would be cleaning it up. He'd be fixing it. Things would be a better place to live if they were gone. That's what he believed. Everybody's a hero of their own stories. Vincent James believes that his viewpoints are objectively, provably correct. That there's a cabal of Jews that run the world. They control the banks, the media, the everything. And if we can just prevent them and women and, African Americans and everybody else from voting, just white land-owning men, things will be a lot better. He thinks the downfall of society started when women earned the right to vote, and, basically he thinks it was when anybody was allowed to vote that wasn't a white land-owning male. That's pretty much his viewpoint, and he's convinced that he has facts to back him up on that. It's just bizarre. Captain Garves, man, this is paralleling what I was listening to earlier. It's scary. Lol, I recommend Checkmate Lincolnites, Episode 8. 40s Germany got their racial ideology from the CSA in large part. Interesting. I'm going to have to take a look at that then. Appreciate that. That's pretty crazy. Yours truly, the number one pony. He might as well go burn the entire Constitution. Oh, yeah. I don't think he has any interest in the Constitution. Vincent James? I think he's more than happy to light the whole Constitution on fire and start with a dictatorship. I think he's good with that. Absolutely. I don't know why he doesn't just move to Russia if that's what he wants. Russia is doing all the stuff that he says he wants. Just go to Russia. You don't have to live in America and ruin it for everybody else, but whatever. Serious question. These nut jobs activism does anything to make the world better, only attack people. A lot of them are reacting to loss of financial or societal security. Why don't they help people why don't they help people they say are hurt? Interesting question. So if I understand correctly, I think what you're saying is these nutter butters like Vincent James, Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, neo-Nazis basically, aren't doing anything to make the world better. They're only attacking people. If they're reacting to financial or social problems, why don't they try to help people instead of hurt people? The answer is because they believe that if white people were in charge, things would just resolve themselves. The world would be a better place if just white people and white people alone could run things with no Jews, no blacks, no Mexicans, nobody but white people, pure white Aryan blood, basically. That is Vincent James's position, Kanye's position, and others. Deeply disturbing stuff, honestly. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for the super chats. I really appreciate it. I'm going to run my outro on YouTube. Twitchers will see it too. Just stick around for a minute. To the YouTubers, I hope to see you guys on Twitch. If not, I will see you guys hopefully on my main channel on Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m., okay? To the Twitchers, I will see you guys in a second. Thank you guys for coming, and have a good night. If you like what I do and you want to make sure I can continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, you can support me on Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I sell all kinds of shirts and stickers and stuff on there. Second, you can support me by checking out my Etsy store. I sell 3D printed stands for every system, from the original Nintendo to the Xbox One. And finally, if you want to support me in other ways, you can check me out on my other channels. I have the podcast channel, which is where I talk about whatever's on my mind. Politics, social issues, whatever. You can also find it everywhere podcasts can be found. Or you can check out the videos on my main channel, where I focus on destructive cults. As it is with most channels these days, I rely on the support of viewers like you to keep my channel alive, so sharing my work is extremely helpful. Anyways, check me out in all those places if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, guys.